Hi, welcome back, and in this video I will be finally concluding my Golden Axe comparisons. And I'd just like to mention that for those who don't own a Sega Mega Drive, or anyone in the US who doesn't own a Sega Genesis, you can pick up Golden Axe on either the PS2. Here in Australia and Europe it's called the Sega Mega Drive Collection. In the US, I assume it's called the Sega Genesis Collection. But this was the first compilation disc that brought out onto a new gen console. But it wasn't until I think about 6 months ago they released Sega Mega Drive Ultimate Collection, which is basically this collection plus some extra games that was not included of this version. Preferably, the only games that were omitted of this collection was Virtua Fighter 2, from my understanding. But if I had a choice between out of the two, I would highly recommend picking up this version instead, because in this one you get all the Sonic games, you also get all the Streets of Rage games, and of course all the Golden Axe games, and you get some extra bonus stuff that was not included in the other version. So for my personal preference, I would highly recommend picking up this version for those who don't own an actual Sega Genesis or Mega Drive. But for tonight, I'm going to show you Golden Axe on the Mega Drive in the 6-pack compilation collection. Okay, here's the opening menu screen for the 6-pack. During the late run of the Genesis and Mega Drive era, Sega figured out a way to expand extra memory on game cartridges, and they managed to squeeze in 6 games on one cart. So in America, they had on the 6-pack the first Sonic game. They had Columns, which was standard in a lot of game compilations back in the day. Streets of Rage, Golden Axe, Revenge of Shinobi, which is the version 1.3, which I'll do a video comparisons of the different versions of Revenge of Shinobi, but that's on a later note. And Super Hang-On. Let's see. Now in Australia and in Europe, we had our version of the 6-pack, but it didn't feature Sonic the Hedgehog. It featured a really average game which came out in the early, I think it was in the early 90s. It was called World Cup Italiana 90. Oh, there you go, it's early 90s. In America it's called World Championship Soccer, I believe, and that's in the European version of the 6-pack. They decided to omit Sonic the Hedgehog out of that version. Anyhow, we're not talking about Sonic, we're talking about Golden Axe, so I'm just going to adjust this camera right here a little bit. Now, out of all the Golden Axe games that I've played, I still prefer the original Mega Drive version. That's due because it improves the Master System version heaps better. Of course, you got the 3 different characters to select from, and it's not a perfect game if you want to compare it, do a comparison to the arcade version, but it complements the arcade game really well, despite some of the limitations on the hardware. But they managed to throw in extra features on this version, so it's like a compensation from the arcade to the home console version, which is a nice package. But besides that, this is a great game. So yeah, in this version, the sound chip on the Mega Drive or Genesis is a little bit inferior, but they had to work with what they have. So, but whatever the programmers did on this version, they did a pretty good job. So. I always find the screams in this game hilarious. I just don't know why. Maybe because of the low quality sound of it. Which, for the voices, it sort of has its charm. Just the the campiness of it. Okay, if I was to do a comparison between the arcade version and the Mega Drive version, one of the disadvantages between both versions, well, from the arcade to the Mega Drive version, is the graphics. It's a little bit of a step down, but it's from what the programmers have done with it, they did a good job. They capture the essence of the arcade game, not totally 100%, but close enough for players even back in the day to believe that you are actually playing an arcade game at home. Which that's Sega's skill in video game programming, is that they can manage to make arcade games convert arcade games to the home, and just the essence of the arcade game played at home. Unfortunately, the villagers in this game, they sound more like rats than villagers screaming for their lives. And I might have mentioned this in the Mega CD version. That version only has a one-player option. The Mega Drive version is probably the best choice to play Golden Axe and the arcade, because it's really, the game itself is really a two-player game in my opinion. Like a beat 'em up style hack and slash arcade game. It was designed for two players, I feel. So the Mega Drive version for me will always be the best version of Golden Axe. And if I had to make a choice out of the three sequels, the first one for me is the best game out of the three. Here's a tip. When you get to the skeletons, make stand like on the bottom platform and let the skeletons stand on the top platform. That way you can get an instant kill out of the skeletons like this. So yeah, in this version, the music is great as always. There's not much I could say about the music. It is near arcade perfect to the arcade version of Golden Axe. It can't, like I said, on the Mega Drive, it's a bit limited to what you can do to the arcade version, but it complements the game pretty well. So there's nothing negative about the music. Gameplay, it feels exactly the same to the arcade version. When I played the arcade version on the Wii, it feels a bit more smoother. I can't really explain why, but it just feels smoother. But the controls are exactly the same to the arcade version. I would say it's a bit more challenging on the Mega Drive than it is to the arcade, but it's definitely a step up from the Master System version. Okay, now in all the even in the Mega CD version, this is the extra bonus stage on Golden Axe. As you can see here, they made this level pretty hard with those platform obstacles. You want to try and avoid falling off those obstacles there, otherwise you'll lose a life. So that's probably the best tip. Try and stay on the platforms, and if you're fighting like that after a bunch of enemies chasing you, if you're playing in the single player mode, I would recommend trying and launching them into the pit. It's not easy. Oh well, doesn't matter. I thought I'd just end the game like that. Anyhow, there's not much I could say about this game. This is probably the best version of Golden Axe. Out of all the games I've played, even the arcade version, I love the arcade version, just the graphical detail of it, really. But if I had to choose the arcade version over the Mega Drive or Genesis version, I would still recommend the original Mega Drive version, mainly because of the extra bonus stage at the end, and the extra option, and it's way more challengeable because you can either start with 5 health bars or 3 health bars, and you only have, now if you're playing single player mode, I believe you only have 4 credits, and if you play in 2 player, the credits split. I think one player has 3 and the second player has 1, I believe, but that's the challenge factor with the home console versions, because in the arcade you could just chuck in a quarter or 20 cents back in the day, if I remember, and you just keep playing, you just keep cranking up lives and progress further into the game. Yeah, I've only managed to finish this game once in my entire life, so with the option screen. So I like to hear other people, how they finish the game of Golden Axe. Like have they finished it without losing a health bar or life, or speed run. I have seen some speed run videos, and I was pretty impressed by some people, the way they play Golden Axe. So I'm not to their levels, but that's the name of the game, I guess. More practice, the more better you get at it. But yeah, I still like this game despite the difficulty of the game. But it's one of Sega Mega Drive's classic games on that system. So if I have to give this one a score, I'm going to give this one a 9 out of 10.